gentlemen, welcome to the main event. Let's get ready to rumble!
Hello, everyone. I'm Andy Scott with Ring Generals Podcast. I'm here today with my buddy and cohort, Metal Mike Grimes. We're going to do our first virtual interview. We've been doing them live since the beginning, but that's becoming a headache for everyone, and this way we can have more people on. So it's fitting that our first guest is the Grindhouse Pro Wrestling Heavyweight Champion, Klayton Cannon. Boy, I got that mixed up bad. Sorry, man. So how's it going today, Klayton?
Well, it was going better before you screwed up the intro like the snowflake that you are, but other than that, it's going pretty well.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll have you know I'm not much of a snowflake, but that's cool. What's going on there, Mike?
Oh, nada. Just glad to have Klayton on here. It's been a long time coming. We've been in touch for a couple months now, off and on. Just with everything that Andy said, it's been a headache trying to get everybody lined out scheduling wise, but now we've got this virtual, so let's move forward and we'll go on with Klayton and learn more about it.
All right, Klayton. So how long have you been wrestling?
I actually started training, it'd be 4 years ago so from kind of start to finish, it's been about 4 years. I trained off and on for about a year, and so I guess it's been 3 years since my first official match that I've been in the business.
Okay. Seems like I've seen you quite a few times at OVW. I don't think we've ever met. Well, not in OVW, but Grindhouse. But I did see you at OVW a couple times at least. How did that work out for you?
Yeah, I did some shots with OVW. It was a great experience. It was really nice to learn, how to work kind of, wrestling for TV and getting to meet the guys, getting to meet Al Snow and, Doug Basham and those guys there. And so I really enjoyed my time there. Looking to maybe do some things with them in the future. Just kind of opportunities that popped up. Couldn't really get things lined up to do maybe, an extended run with them at the time, but would love to get back down there, at some point. And, but right now just staying busy, going, kind of all over the place with a couple different companies and things. And, but definitely enjoyed my time at OVW, and they've got a really nice organization down there for sure.
Oh yeah, Mike and I've been going since they were in Southern Indiana. So it is a good organization. Seems like from a fan's perspective, you guys, when you're on TV, you seem a lot more constrained, especially I'm sure about time, but you guys seem to let loose and have a better match, and the flow of it seems to go better when you're in a house show. Is that something you all see too, or is it just what a fan sees?
I would tend to agree with that just from my own personal experience, like, contrasting, what I do at Grindhouse or when I'm wrestling for some other promotions, at fair shows or, doing spot shows here and there. I've told people before, one of my first experiences at OVW is, you look at the board and you see your matchup and you see how much time you've got left. And, they may only have you allotted for, maybe 5-7 minutes on the board. And one of my first matches, by the time we got through entrances and things, the bell's getting ready to ring. The referee walks over to me in the corner and whispers 3 minutes. And I was just like, what? Like, we've got 3 minutes to get this match over, done with, hit the outros, all that stuff. So it's definitely a different animal with TV and camera angles and making sure that a certain camera gets, a certain viewpoint or a certain finish, or whatever the case may be. So at other, more spot shows that aren't televised, you definitely have that leeway to lay your match out, a little bit more maybe to your liking, and you've got that flexibility of time. And I think the biggest thing for me, able to lay out the character work when you've got a little more extended time, you're able to play with your character a little more and let a little bit more of your personality shine through, as opposed to when you're told that 4 minutes to, get in, get out, give the promoter what they're looking for, and then also trying to get yourself over a little bit at the same time. So it's definitely there's definitely a difference between the two.
Okay, well, that's cool. So, how did you get into wrestling? Was you a fan of it when you were younger? Did you know a wrestler to get you into training, or is it all just, hey, here I am, I want to learn?
Yeah, I've been a lifelong fan. I mean, since I was a kid, I'm 5 years old. I remember watching superstars on television and renting the Coliseum videos. I can remember one of my best friends when I was in elementary school had a video copy of WrestleMania 3, and we would wear that thing out on the weekends. And so I've always been a fan of it. At the time when I was in high school, college, it still wasn't as open as it is now. Like even if I'd wanted to wrestle kind of when I was younger, it wasn't like it is now where you could just look up, Google wrestling school and find, hundreds of schools in there. I mean, it was still kind of, a little bit more of that secret society where you're not really sure how it would even become a professional wrestler. So, but as I got older, I said around the time 4 years ago when I started training, actually, Tim Gonerman, who was the former head of the Kentucky Wrestling and Boxing Commission, is actually a family friend of ours. And so he started taking me to some shows. He took me to some WWE shows, but took me to some independent shows and things. And at one of the shows, he used me as security and said, "Hey, you can sit ringside and be security for this show. I'm taking care of stuff in the backstage or whatever." And one of the spots in the main event was the participants were going to brawl in the crowd. And so I actually had a spot where when they went outside, I had to jump the guardrail and legitimately keep the crowd back so they weren't, touching the guys and interfering with the match or anything. And I just thought that was one of the coolest things that I'd ever done. I mean, just being the security guy just out in the crowd. And so started talking to Tim, and he said, "Hey, if you really want to train," and I was just of the mind just to see if I could do it. My goal was just to have a match. I just wanted to, I thought, well, I'm going to go train and let's just see if I can get good enough to where they would let me have a match. And he pointed me in the direction of Larry D, who had a promotion down in Cynthiana near Georgetown at the time. So his promotion, Primetime Wrestling, and he and also Reverend Ronnie Roberts was his head trainer at the time. And so I got hooked up with them and started doing a lot of my basic training and initial training there, with Larry D.
Okay, I've seen Larry D a few times. He's on his retirement tour now, I think. But I've been in Kentucky my whole life, and I go all the way back to the USWA and in the Louisville Gardens and all that fun stuff with Jerry Lawler. But I'd never heard of Larry D until recently.
Yeah.
So I guess they didn't get out there that much, but that's cool. So who did your training? Was it just Larry D, or did you get into like with Ronnie Roberts and that?
Yeah, Ronnie was actually the head trainer, so I'd say most of the hands-on training I did was with Ronnie. Larry was there, and I did some sessions. He did some sessions with us and the other students as well. Was definitely there guiding us. But I'd say a lot of what I learned personally was from Ronnie. He did a lot of the nuts and bolts, the actual training. Of how to bump and the moves and things that you would think of as far as starting off. And so I spent about, I guess, about a year down there with them. And that's who I actually had my first official match with. They did a student showcase kind of the following summer after I had started at one of their fair shows. And so me and about 4 or 5 other guys and girls that were technically students of Larry's Academy at the time got to, run some matches and do some things with some of the PTW guys, which was a great experience. And then right around a couple of months after that was when COVID kind of hit and shut everything down. And so during that interval, Ronnie moved to Grindhouse up in Jeffersonville, Indiana. And they, during the pandemic, Indiana opened itself up earlier than Kentucky. Kentucky still wouldn't allow any combat sports, in which, for whatever reason, wrestling falls under that umbrella in Kentucky. So, we couldn't, there was nowhere to go and no training to have or anything. And so it opened up and Ronnie contacted me and said, "Hey, I'm up here at Grindhouse. If you want to come up and kind of, get your training kind of kickback started again. And, they were open and allowed to have training. And so that's how I ended up back up at Groundhouse. And then I'd say probably around, I don't know, maybe 6 months after they opened up and started running, then they started running shows again. And it kind of took off, and I've been, working with them, predominantly pretty much ever since.
Well, that's cool. You seem pretty polished the first time I even saw you. How long, I know everyone's different, but in general, how long does it take someone out of training to look like they know what they're doing in the ring? Does it take a while?
For me personally, I'd say it did. Like I said, it took me about a year of training. I didn't train consistently that entire year. My job and my shoot job, and I'm a school teacher and high school basketball. So usually the summer months and the spring months I was there. And then usually when fall and winter hit, I wasn't there to be able to be there as much as I would like because my coaching obligations and stuff kind of took me away. So I didn't have a full, necessarily year of full training. I would say it was probably all in all, maybe more around, the 6 to 7 month mark is, as far as that goes before I had my first match. So that's how it went, for me, and definitely when I had my first match, I can say I was probably confident that I knew how to do, the moves, but everything else was complete, learning my character, trying to even form a character and express some personality. That was all, even putting a match together was all, I was, definitely not an expert whatsoever at that. So I'd say it's different for everybody. I think everybody's definitely have to get the fundamentals down. You definitely have to know how to work in the ring, keep yourself safe, keep your opponent safe. And that's something that Ronnie really stressed, and Larry D really stressed with us as students, was you got to know how to do that first. And then once they were confident enough in you that you could take care of yourself and take care of your opponent, then, kind of move towards, having a match and things. So I'd say everybody's different. I've worked with people that have caught on to it really quick. I've worked with people that haven't caught on to it, so quick. But you even look at mainstream stars. I mean, you look at somebody like Logan Paul or Bad Bunny, in the WWE that, supposedly have only been training for a couple of months, and then they're thrown out there at a WrestleMania or a SummerSlam and, definitely look like they belong. You've definitely seen worse, than those guys
Yeah,
in the ring. So,
Agree with that.
so I mean, it's going to be different for everybody.
I got you. You said your shoot job was a teacher. How long you been teaching?
This is my 16th year teaching.
Okay, so you got into wrestling relatively late then.
Yeah, I got a little bit of a late start. Got kind of the DDP start. I got into it at the time. I was 34 when I first started training, and so like I said, 4 years since then. And like I said, it probably would have been something that I would have liked to have gotten into much younger. But like I said, at the time, it wasn't quite as readily available as it is now. I said that even in, I'm dating myself, I'm sure, but I graduated high school in 2003, and so I was in college around that 03 to '07 time frame. Back then it wasn't where you could just look up in the phone book and find a wrestling school. OVW had their school at the time. That was the only place that I knew. And I didn't have the money to afford OVW training at the time, and so that was really the only place I knew that was even close to somewhere I could even look to even start. How do I become a professional wrestler? And so yeah, so it's definitely something. If I had advice for anybody who wanted to do this, I would definitely say do it while you're young, do it while you're single, before you start a family and all that. I think it definitely probably makes it a little bit easier on you.
Gotcha. So with, well, you've got a family and things too, don't you?
Yes.
Well, kids.
I've got a wife and got 3 kids.
Okay, so you're a pretty busy guy then.
Yeah.
Coach,
Exactly.
teacher. Yeah. Okay. So going forward, do you have aspirations of doing more, or is it just like, well, this is my life. I don't have time to do more really, because I don't see you going out too much to other of the indie wrestling here in the area. Which, if anyone doesn't know, we're in Kentucky and Indiana and Ohio. There seems to be a lot of indie wrestling going on, and some of it's pretty darn good. So do you think about that any?
Yeah, I do. I take the opportunities that kind of come. Um, obviously, I guess you'd never, never say never, but I didn't get into this thinking that I would aspire, to go to WWE, and be a, WWE superstar and do this as a career. Um, so obviously, if that opportunity arose to get, something with them, with AEW or Impact or whatever, obviously, yes, I've, kind of pursued those avenues. You never know what happens when they need extras or they're around town or whatever. Um, so that's one of those things, like, but I don't necessarily have any delusions of thinking that especially at my stage of career, that I'm going to move on and have a 10-year career in in the WWE or anything.
Right.
But I do, I think, especially with the family situation and also just with my age and things, I do have to be a little bit, I try to be selective of the I do take, when something comes along like an OVW, I've worked for them. I've worked for New South. I've worked for UCW. There's a new promotion, the Elite Wrestling Alliance out of Frankfurt area, that I've started working for. Obviously, I work for Grindhouse. So I do as much as I can, when I can. But I do like to try to be selective, with the opportunities that I take, because of there's only so many bumps you can take, and so you do have to, at least in my opinion and in my stage, I think you do have to be somewhat selective of what you do, and not necessarily about quantity, but more about the quality of
Right.
the opportunities that I take on.
Okay. Would you like to train sometime in the future? Train
Yeah, I think
newbies?
that would definitely be something I would enjoy. I'm kind of a coach by nature, so I think that would be something that once I'm done, in that would definitely be something I wouldn't mind exploring, is being some type of coach or trainer with somebody, for sure.
Okay, that's pretty cool. You seem like that would be the natural progression there. Mike, you have any questions, buddy?
Um, I just think, I mean, we've been watching you for a while, as we've said. But I mean, you've really progressed, especially with this storyline you're carrying with Birdo over the last few months and all the
It has
twists and
been
turns
good.
that's entailed. And it seems like it looks like I mean, you're not supposed to show that you're out there having fun, but you can still see it. If that makes any sense. I mean,
Yeah.
you're out there, it's like, I've got a character now that I can portray, and the people are going to believe that I'm this heel bad guy that can't decide if Myrtle's my best friend or my worst enemy by hanging on to him. And
Mhm.
I mean, even with your matches with Chris Michaels, it's like I said, you're out there having fun. And then at your age, I mean, like you said, you're trying to make the best of the situation at the time that you have. Do you feel
Sure.
that way? That you've been out there having fun with what you're doing and with what's been presented for you to perform as?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, at this point, kind of like you mentioned, if I wasn't having fun and enjoying what I'm doing, then there's a lot of other things that take up my time that I could just say, this isn't worth it. Like I said, but I enjoy what I'm doing. I do. I really do love wrestling, and being able to perform and being a part of the promotions, and like you said, the storylines and things that I'm put in. I've been appreciative and humbled at the fact that that I am the Grindhouse champion. I'm actually the only two-time Grindhouse heavyweight champion. So like I said, so I mean, that's been an honor for me. And to get in the ring with some of the guys that I have, especially at Grindhouse, guys like Tyler Matrix, Jake Christ, had a match with Jake Christ, Zach Gowen. Just was able to have an opportunity to have a match with Hornswoggle last month. You mentioned Chris Michaels. Chris Michaels is a guy that came up through the WWE ranks. He was in OVW with guys around the time of like John Cena and Randy Orton and Batista, and for what one reason or another didn't quite get the breaks that those guys maybe did, but was right there on the cusp of where those guys were. And so to be kind of where I'm at with, I still consider myself relatively, I guess, new or young to the business. To me, 3 years doesn't sound like a long time. But so when I get compliments from guys like a Tyler Matrix and Michaels um, who could tell a guy like me that he enjoyed our match because he wanted to see if he still had it, and could still go. And so, a match with me, kind of proved to him that he could still have, high matches. So, to me, I'm thinking, here's a guy, what does he need me for to, validate himself whatsoever, so to have guys like that pay you compliments and tell you that you're doing a good job and to stick with it. I mean, that means everything. That means a lot to have peers like that tell you that, you're doing a good job.
All right, each one of those guys has got a different mindset too. Because I mean, you look at Swoggle's his gimmick, Zach's gimmick, and Tyler's completely different. Chris, they're all four completely different wrestling styles.
Mhm.
Each one of those have got a different style than going against two big guys going against each other all night long. To me, that's amazing that you're able to go out there, have the matches you've had, which have been great. You go out there, like I said, with Swaggle, you all were having a blast out there. The fans were eating it up, and wanting more. That's what you want. At main events. I mean, like I said, this storyline's been going almost a year. It seems like, and it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's been building and building and building. It's like, hey, here's some guys having some fun doing this. It's not, they're not always out. You're out there getting paid, but you're not always out. You're out there having fun doing what you want to do.
And you've been champ for a while now. How long have you been? At least, I don't know, 6 months at least.
Yeah, like I said, this is my second reign. So I won the title in January. Yeah, I guess technically going on 8 months for the second reign. And like I said, and then before that, I think it was another probably 7 or 8 months reign there. So it's been a while. I said we've had a good run for sure.
Yeah. Well, it seems like, if you're a company's champion, that they must have a lot of faith in you. So that's got to be, something nice, I would think. All right, guys, we're going to do our a tournament to see who Klayton thinks is the best legend or the greatest legend of all time. Let me get my screen sharing going here.
Go with The Rock, I think, here, obviously.
All right, so the Rock over the Big Slow, as he once said. All right, then I got Triple H and Booker T.
Man, that's I'm probably gonna go with Triple H, although that one's probably a little closer than some people may think. Booker T I loved him in WCW. He was one of my favorites. In Harlem Heat, they were a cool tag team, and his series with Chris Benoit for the TV title. I can remember watching that, as a teenager on Nitro. So I'm a big fan of Booker T, but I'll still give the nod to Triple H.
I always liked Booker T when he was King Booker and he had the pinky up all the time.
Yeah.
So we'll go with
and talk about a guy that's reinvented himself a bunch of times. I mean,
almost as much as this guy here. Mick Foley, Cactus Jack, Mankind, and Dude Love all rolled into one against Shane O'Mac.
Foley, for sure.
All right, RVD, one of my favorites, against the legend himself, Mr. Terry Funk.
Now, see, for me, I would go RVD here because, I've heard a lot about, Terry Funk and respect him, and I know what he's done, in the business, but a lot of that was a little bit before my time. And also when I was growing up, we didn't get a lot of NWA and even WCW. We were more a WWE area. So for me, like I said, it's going to have to be, RVD, although no disrespect to Terry Funk, but he was just a little bit before my time.
Cool. All right. So Stone Cold or Goldberg?
Austin.
Okay. And we're also at the 10-minute mark here, guys. All right. So you got, Battle of the Outsiders here. Scott Hall or Kevin Nash?
That's a tough one. I'm going Scott Hall. he was always one of the best. I always loved Razor Ramon growing up. So I always kind of preferred Razor Ramon to Diesel. I always kind of preferred Scott Hall to Kevin Nash in the NWO. And plus, he has one of the best looking punches that I've ever seen in wrestling. So I'm going to go with Scott Hall there.
It's kind of a surprise. Alrighty, so you got the battle of the brothers here. Taker versus Kane.
You got to go Undertaker.
All right. Couple of surprises, but not many so far. DDP, as we talked about earlier, and the Stinger.
Sting.
Okay. And the battle of Hogan's first, or the rematch of Hogan's first championship, Hogan versus the Iron Sheik, who recently passed.
Yeah, Hogan, big Hulkamaniac over here. So
now this one for me would be a toughie. Andre's a legend, and I loved him, and I actually got to see him in person. And Vader, though, just awesome.
Yeah, that one is tough. That's another one. Andre was, I've seen WrestleMania 3. I've seen all his big moments, but he was a little bit kind of for my time.
You're calling me old, thanks.
Yeah, just I'm gonna go with Andre just out of the respect factor. He's Andre the Giant. He's the 8th wonder of the world, so I'm gonna go with him just out of pure respect for him.
Macho and Steamboat. We do need to speed up some.
Macho Man, all-time favorite.
Cool. All right, it's got Rowdy Roddy and the $1 Million Man.
Piper.
Battle of the Horsemen, Flair versus Double A, Arn Anderson.
I'll go Flair.
That sounded like a compromise choice, but okay. We got Jake the Snake versus the first Black World Champion, Ron Simmons.
Jake the Snake.
Shawn Michaels versus the American Dream.
Again, all respect to Dusty, respect what he's done, but for me, Shawn Michaels.
The Bulldog versus Bret Hart.
Bret Hart.
Okay, so we're going to round 2 on this side of the bracket. You got The Rock and Triple H.
I'm going Rock.
We've got Mick Foley and RVD. The whole effing show.
Foley.
Stone Cold versus Scott Hall.
I do it for me personally because this is my bracket. I'm going Scott Hall.
All righty. Taker and Sting.
Taker.
Hogan and Andre. WrestleMania 3. All right.
Hogan.
All righty. Macho and Piper. This is a good one.
Savage.
Flair and Jake the Snake.
I'm going Jake.
That's a surprise pick. All righty. Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart, the Montreal Screwjob relived. Are you going to go chalk on this one?
Man, that is tough. I'm going to go Shawn Michaels barely.
Oh, so Bret gets screwed again. The Rock versus Foley.
I'll go Rock. That's tough.
Scott Hall and the Taker. Ooh, this is going to be a toughie.
That's tough, but I got to go with Taker.
All right. So we're coming up on 5 minutes, guys. Hogan and Savage.
Savage.
Snake versus Shawn.
Shawn.
Rock and Taker.
Taker.
Macho and Shawn.
Savage.
Somehow I knew that one. Taker and Savage.
Savage.
All right.
New era. Era.
Oh man. I'll go Cena.
So John Cena.
I can't see him. Where's he at?
I see the human jar of mayonnaise though. Punk and Scott Steiner.
I'll go.
Say that again. You cut it up, man.
I'll go Steiner.
All right. Coming up on 4 minutes. Orton. Okay.
Yeah.
Angle
Ooh.
and Mike's hero, Jericho.
I'll take Angle. That's a tough one though.
Battle of the Hardys.
Jeff.
Edge and Christian.
Edge.
Oh, Mysterio versus Henry.
Mysterio.
Eddie Guerrero and JBL.
Eddie.
Nemeth and AJ Styles.
AJ. But big Ziggler fan though.
I like Ziggler too. Is that Nakamura and Brock?
I'll take Brock.
Hey, this is a good one. Owens or Cesaro? What is it? Cesario?
Yeah, that is a good one. I'll take Owens.
Okay, 3 minutes, guys. One of my personal favorites, Finn Balor versus The Miz.
Balor.
Ooh, this is a good matchup too.
Roman.
Seth versus what's his name, Mike?
Joe.
There you go. I can't remember Joe.
Seth Rollins.
Ooh, this is a good matchup too.
I'm taking I'll take Big E, but just barely.
Kofi and was it Brian Danielson or Daniel Bryan or whatever the hell it is?
I'll take Daniel Bryan.
All right, fellas, 2 minutes.
Steiner.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Orton or Angle?
Angle.
Edge or not? Or Edge and Hardy.
Edge.
Guerrero or Mysterio?
Eddie.
Brock, AJ Styles.
AJ.
Surprise there. Owens or Balor?
Balor.
Let's see, Seth or Roman. I think we've seen this
Seth.
matchup a few times.
Yeah. Seth.
Big E versus Bryan. All right. Angle and Steiner. We got a minute to go, guys.
Angle.
Guerrero or Edge?
Edge for me.
Balor or Styles?
Styles.
Well, unfortunately, we're going to have to stop there, Klayton. I do apologize. We've run out of time. We'll have you back on to finish this up, buddy. How does that sound?
All right. That sounds great.
All right, man. We'll see you at Grindhouse at Sunday at the end of the month. We'll be rooting for you, man.
Appreciate it. Yeah. Last Sunday of every month, 1416 Spring Street in Jeffersonville.
It was great having you on. I'm glad we got to do this, man.
I do too. I really appreciate you guys having me on. I said I'll come back anytime. I'd love to do it.
All right, man. See you.
Good, man. Sounds good. See you soon.